Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. Okay, so this started because you listen to a podcast, which you often
Yeah, well, I'm an obsessive podcast listener. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and some of them are beautiful and junky, and some of them are really useful. But this one was Hello Monday with Jesse Hempel, which I'm a big fan of. It's through the LinkedIn network of podcasts. Jesse Hempel's great. And her guest star was Gretchen Rubin, whose podcast I no longer follow because sometimes you change, but I followed Gretchen Rubin's for a while. And they both talked about being published authors and what it was like to write and publish their books. And one of the things that Gretchen Rubin said that I felt maybe she was speaking to us about was that when she finished her first book, she said that writers know how to write a book, but they don't know how to be authors. And she wishes there was a video talking about what to do after writing your first book. And I was like, James, Gretchen Rubin just requested that we do a video.
Yeah, this might have been your exact words. So this video has gone through a few different iterations. We've had a lot of different ways of approaching it, but what we landed on was to share what we think are 10 business strategies, or 10 of the best business strategies for published authors.
What I was going to say is I think that going from writer to author, the biggest differential is that you go from having this wonderful freedom to do whatever you want and shape your book and make your own hours and be creative and have fun with it and really just enjoy a process you love, to becoming a business person. Because becoming a published author, which I guess we define as author versus writer, is that now you are in the profession of publishing and authorship. And that is obviously a big difference.
Well, that's our first strategy too, I think, like trying to make that mindset shift of I'm doing this for funsies to I'm doing this to build a career, and I am now starting a small business, because that's what you are.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to remember is when you get hooked up with an agent and you get hooked up with a publisher, we are all in this for the business. I mean, not that we don't love what we do, but the truth is this is our career. We're here to make money. And when you enter that world, you are here to do the same.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so we have a bunch of strategies and things that authors will likely do, and I think it's good to know those up front. So Jessica, I'm going to hop around a bit.
Yep.
Bear with me.
I'll follow your lead.
Okay. So I think, assuming you've written the book, you've queried, you're getting an agent, right? The first thing that we're doing as a business is we're hiring someone. We're hiring a literary agent. And as you're starting to get paid, you might hire someone to do your taxes, or a finance person in general. As your work gets really busy, you might hire someone to be your assistant or do your social media or whatever it might be. So
do your website.
To do your website.
I think it's really important, like, to consider as a professional what your website looks like and how user-friendly it is, and is it mobile friendly, and all of those things. So yes, you might hire a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that is the first mindset shift to make, because like now you're in that position where you are assembling a team of people that are going to help you make your best career as you possibly can. So if you were treating your career like a restaurant, just to follow up our restaurant analogy from a previous video,
we like those.
You would be hiring someone to do front of house. You would be hiring someone to clean, to cook, like all of these things. And you're doing the same as an author. You have that responsibility.
The next thing you're probably going to face, the next business strategy as an author, are your understanding of contracts and royalties. Because let's face it, the first real step is getting that contract and going through those negotiations with the publisher. Now, hopefully you have an agent who's handling that on your behalf and with you, so that you have a resource to ask the questions of.
Can I back up really quickly?
Yeah.
Because when you're signing with an agent and you're hiring someone, you're likely going to have a contract as well. So even before then, being comfortable reading contracts and being familiar with what an agency contract should look like.
Yes.
You're not going to be a professional, but do some research, try and have a basic understanding of what an agency contract will look like. And then you can do the same when you have a publishing contract. But at this point, you'll have an agent, like you're saying, and I'm done interrupting you. Go ahead.
Well, nobody expects you to understand every detail of a
Right.
contract. I mean, but you need to understand basically what you're committing to. And that's where your agent comes into play as they're negotiating the contract. They can answer questions for you. You have to have an understanding of how you're getting paid, the expectations of the publisher, your due date, things like that. So that's your first business strategy, is getting that signed and ready and moving forward.
Yeah, and I always tell clients, like, I have your best interest at heart, but not more than you do. It's not possible, right? Like, we all have our own best interest at heart. So you have to be involved in this stuff. You have to read the contracts you're getting, read your royalty statements when they come in. It's really crucial that you're doing that, even just to have an understanding of your money and what you're agreeing to. So don't skip this step.
Yep.
Okay. Meeting deadlines. Any business owner is going to have to meet deadlines, meet something for a launch, meet whatever it might be, right? Getting back to your tax person, tax day, right? Like, you have to meet deadlines. It's crucial. I think it's what makes you reliable and a dependent author to hire. And I think everybody that you're working with, if you're setting deadlines, is going to expect you to meet them. So this is just something to get comfortable with and get good at.
And I would say, even prior to that, when you're working with the contract, setting the deadlines. And that's a great conversation to have with your agent. What's realistic here? I get a lot of, what does the publisher want? No, because the publisher might want something, but if it's not realistic to you, then it's not a good deadline to set. What's realistic to you, given your life situation, given how long it takes you to write, all of those things? There will be some point, if you are lucky enough to have a long career, which we hope you all do, there will be some point where you miss a deadline. Something in life is going to come up and you're going to miss it. You're going to talk with your agent. You're going to come up with a realistic new deadline that's going to work for you. But if along the way you are always good about meeting deadlines, when you do have that situation arise where you miss one, everyone's going to shrug and understand and make the adjustments and go forward with it, because you have shown them time and time again that you are reliable.
Can I make a flip side too? Because if you're working in publishing, everybody misses deadlines. It happens, right?
Yeah.
So there's also, I think, something within us that we have to be comfortable setting boundaries about deadlines with other people, making sure other people are meeting deadlines, following up if they don't. I think that's also a part of this that as an author, you should expect. Are they paying you on time? I haven't received my contract. It's been 3 months. Like, those are also a sense of those deadlines, what they should be in publishing, and when you are deserved or owed a thing. I think it's also really important for every author to understand too.
Yep.
Okay, so if you're working with, were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, if you're working with, an editor at this point, and your agent too, I'm calling it quality control, but every business does this, right? So chefs are tasting what they're cooking, but you're going to be working on revisions, copy edits. You're going to be workshopping covers, workshopping book copy on the back of the book. This is important. Like, you have to get used to this. This is how the industry works. We're always revising stuff. Nothing stays the same from when an author first writes their book. So this is a strategy that you have to get used to, revising, trying to make something better, pushing it to be its best.
Yeah, and what I would say with all of this, what's really important, the best strategy for your business as a published author, is to be a team player. I mean, you probably have ideas of what you want your cover to look like. That's fantastic. Make sure you share that, but make sure you're open to ideas that maybe don't exactly fit your vision. One of the things I think we often see authors do is they love a certain look on a book and they send it over and that's what they want. But what they don't necessarily see or realize is there are 25 books coming out next year that also loved that look because it was the hot new look. And your publisher goes, we want you to stand out more. So we're going to present you something completely different and unexpected. And you're going to have a very jarring moment of, I don't know, that's not what I envisioned. So taking the time to understand where the publisher is coming from, whether that works for you, instead of having a knee-jerk to respond as that's not the way I saw it, is a really good idea. The same is true of the title. There's a really good chance that the title you originally picked is not going to be the same title that the book is published under. So again, working with the team to have the conversations as to why this might be a different, better title is good to do. Same are going to happen with revisions and copy edits. you don't want to lose yourself into somebody else's ideas, but you also want to make sure that you are collaborating in the way, because everybody wants to collaborate. I haven't worked with a publisher yet who's like, we do it our way or the highway, and you know that we're putting the money in. I haven't worked with a publisher yet that's like that. Right. They are open to collaboration. They want the authors to be happy, but you have to hear them as well.
I agree. Yeah, being flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And I had something to add to that, and I can't remember what it was.
Some of the best covers we ever get are those that we never had the vision for. That the publisher showed up and we were like, that is not at all what I envisioned, but that is amazing.
Yeah. I remember what I wanted to add. It was a shameless self plug for us. But we've done a video for when this is coming out. I'm going to assume it was a few weeks back, but we've done a video on revisions being a negotiation. I think it's exactly what we're talking about. We put a lot of emphasis on negotiating offers and contracts, but everything is really negotiation in publishing, especially this process of workshop and revision for your book, your cover. So go check that out, and I think it'll speak a little more to what we're trying to say.
Yeah. And while you're doing this whole process, did I step on your toes on this?
No, please go.
While you're doing this whole process, revisions and copy edits and blah, 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 you are also writing your next book. And this is huge. And this should be huge to the querying process too. To have a successful business as an author, you need to keep putting out product. You know, I mean, Coca-Cola wouldn't be the worldwide brand it is if they only had Coca-Cola. Right. You know, and now they have Dasani water.
Thank you.
I always think that's so weird. But anyway, the same holds true for you. And this is one of the reasons why we talk about having a conversation about deadlines, because that first book may have taken you 6 months, but you weren't also working on the last book at the same time. So working with your editor and your agent on what should that next book be, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm working on, and doing that while you're doing these other things helps keep the momentum of your career and your writing alive. In most cases, nonfiction might be a bit of an anomaly here. In most cases, you're going to want to be publishing consistently 1 book a year or so, depending on what you write and depending on what the expectations are of the readership of your genre or age group.
Yeah, Stephen King isn't Stephen King because he published Carrie and said, all right, everybody.
Right, I'm good.
Enjoy it for the next 40 years.
Somebody's going to come up and say that, like, you know, so-and-so only write 1 classic novel ever. But, you know, if you were writing books 200 years ago, go right ahead.
Well, if that's what you're happy with, then that's what you're happy with. But I think most authors who are getting into this want that consistent bestseller status, right? So
yeah,
we're talking without.
Yeah, we're talking career here.
Exactly. Okay, we skipped over this one. That's my bad last time, but we talked about understanding your contracts and your royalties. But I also think it's really important to understand taxes and finances in general for yourself, knowing what it's like to work as a 1099, which is what authors receive for their earnings. What can be an expense? When do I have to pay my taxes? All of that is super important. Hiring someone to help you with this can help, but you still have to have a very good understanding of things I said, like what can I expense? What should I pay for? All of that stuff.
Yeah, we strongly recommend when you get to the stage in your career, a CPA versus, you know, Uncle Larry who does taxes.
Unless Uncle Larry who does taxes is a CPA.
Right, right. But, you know, typically you want somebody who really understands tax law and changes in tax law and is getting updated. You know, my CPA will call me, you know, on April 14th and say they just made a change. I want to reconfigure everything, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, go for it. Uncle Larry probably doesn't have that knowledge.
He doesn't.
No. Okay.
Okay, so Jessica talked about writing more books, and I think what we're doing in all of these, really, I think you're building a brand.
Yeah.
And you're trying to create this persona of who you are as an author, who you are as a small business owner with everything that you do, right? So the next book that you're writing, does it build on your brand? You know, the people that you're working with, do they help you build your brand? All of these things are going to go into this overall big picture of being.
What is your brand?
What is your brand? Right. Are you a rom-com author? Are you writing picture books? Do you write things about mental illness? Like, there are so many different niches and different types of things that you could incorporate into your brand. But I think it's really important that you have that conversation with yourself. When we started everything, we started with Bookends, we came up with 3 words. And those were the things that all of our content should have pointed back to. That was what we decided was Bookends' brand. I think it's a really good exercise and it's worth doing for everybody. You know, it could be genre, it could be who you could do too. You could do who you are as a writer, who you are as a public person. But it's really worth having this conversation with yourself to decide who you want to be and what you want your author career to look like.
Yep.
Yeah. And then promoting that is probably the last piece of this puzzle. How are you acting on social media? What does your website look like? What are you doing with your marketing and publicity teams? All of these different areas of promotion go towards building your brand, but also help you be more successful getting your books out there and reaching readers and having an online presence. All that's really important.
Yeah. And what I would like to add is the minute you agree to that publishing contract and you sign that publishing contract, all of this is happening. You're working on revisions, you're building the website, you're establishing your social media, you're figuring out your finances, because that first advance check is going to come.
Right. So usually once you sign.
Right. Can you just blow it on a car? Or do you have taxes to pay later? What's that going to look like? All of these things are happening at once. You've got deadlines now. You're working on your next book. So it's not, and working with your agent and your editor on timelines for this is good. But a lot of the mistake authors make, for example, is they don't think about promotion until right before the book is published. But the thing is when the publisher starts selling your book to bookstores, they want to see your website. They want to, and they want it updated. So if you have a website that you started when you were a querying author, that's going to shift and change a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so all of these things are the strategies you start doing when you become a published author.
Yeah, though I will say Jessica and I are the opposite of procrastinators. So I think you can do a lot of this before you ever even get that contract. You can have a tax. It's good to have a tax person no matter what job you work. So you can have a tax person. You can build your website. You could do this conversation about what your brands are. You can figure out how long it takes you to write a book. Yep. You could research taxes and research. You could do all of this before you get that contract. So if you want to alleviate a lot of that pressure from once you sign the contract, you can start now. And in a way, if you're watching this video, you probably are starting now anyway, or you have already started. But it never hurts to start a lot of this process beforehand.
And it also doesn't have to be done instantly. I mean, from the time you sign the contract till the time your book is published, you will have likely at least a year. So you have a year to start doing all of this thing. It doesn't all have to be done instantly. It's a process.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so we hope this was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We post new videos every Wednesday, and we hope to see you back here next week.
Bye.